I knew life was not at all the way that we thought it is, and that we did have an incredible ability to create our life. The simplest way for me to explain law of attraction is to say that whatever we think and believe is photocopied exactly and appears exactly as our life. Where we've got everything wrong is we are reacting to life, and what we need to do is create life. And so in creating life, we say the way we want it before it's appearing.
What did you learn? And what are the tenets of The Secret?
I learned that we are the creators of our own life, and that what we think will shape our life, what we think and what we believe. I can't afford that. Well, if you say that, that's the way your life's going to be. The shortcut to The Secret is be happy now. And if you're happy now, you're going to attract everything that makes you happy. People deserve whatever they want. If you don't want money, that's totally fine. But if you're somebody who wants financial freedom, you can have it. I'm saying to you, you can have it. The mind is never here in the present. The mind is in the past and the future. And it's ping-ponging back between the two all the time. And so if you're aware, you are in the present, and that's where everything is. All the bliss, all the happiness, all the intelligence, all the beauty, it's all right here, right in the present.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is...
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Rhonda Byrne, the best-selling author, film producer, and law of attraction expert. You are best known as the brains behind the hugely successful documentary film, The Secret, that became a worldwide phenomenon viewed by millions of people. You then followed this up with the book that was translated into 50 languages and has sold over 34 million copies. It topped the New York Times bestseller list for over 200 weeks and was named by USA Today as one of the top 20 best-selling books of the past 15 years. Times Magazine recognized you as one of the most influential people in the world, and you appeared in the Forbes Celebrity Top 100. Your latest book, The Secret to Love, Health, and Money, a masterclass, offers in-depth lessons for anyone trying to create a life of abundance, love, and good health. Your goal is to help as many people as possible realize the power they have over their lives and help free them from their daily struggles to create a more fulfilling existence. Rhonda, welcome to London Real.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much. Well, I got all teary hearing you list all of those things like that. I was thinking, who's that? You know, it certainly doesn't feel like me. I just feel incredibly blessed. I really do.
It's such a fascinating story, and I can't wait to jump into this with you because, you know, not only did you make The Secret, but like you live The Secret, and you know, you really understand it. It feels like really down to your DNA, and that's why I really want to get into this, because I think so many people understand the concept. Maybe they saw the movie once, maybe they tried it, but I feel, Rhonda, and I don't know if you experience this too, that very few people really get it working in their lives. And you know, the way you describe it is it's right there. It's a tool waiting for all of us to embrace. If we could just kind of go all in and understand maybe a few of the, intricacies of how to go for it. And it could, I mean, literally change your life by like 100x, from the way it sounds, right?
Totally, totally. It's that there's a lot of talk on social media about manifesting now, and with the younger generations, and it's really interesting because they're talking about deliberately manifesting something, which is awesome, but we're manifesting every single second of 24/7 of every day.
Right.
Like every moment, like this one now, you and I have manifested. So there's no exclusion to it, and the fact that we can create a life that we want to live, it's just so thrilling and exciting. And for each one of us, we're in the same situation. It's a matter of having mastery, control, awareness over our thoughts and feelings. That's what it is. And we all have thoughts and feelings, so we're all equal in that regard. And so it's a matter of being aware of what we're thinking or being aware of what we're feeling and shifting that if we find that we're starting to think negatively. And I mean, these days, I will say it's, if you will just think about what you want instead of what you don't want, your life would be incredible. Incredible. And isn't that so easy? Like, it's so easy, right?
Yeah, just that simple thing.
Yeah.
I love how you said that. I guess the younger generation, that term manifesting is being used a lot. But like you said, the manifest button is always on. You're either manifesting something positive or negative, but it's always on because you always have thoughts and energy. And as opposed to, I'm going to turn it on today and manifest something nice. It's like, oh yeah, but you forgot the other 23 hours of the day, you probably were manifesting maybe something not as nice. So I guess just people to be aware of that is really important.
Yes. And we throw ourselves into conversations with other people, and they're negative conversations, or they're drama, or indulge in gossip, or all of those things harm us. When we indulge in that, they harm us, because for law of attraction, it's only responding to the thoughts and feelings here. So it's not, so if we're talking about somebody else, law of attraction is just responding to the thoughts and feelings here. So we're basically talking about ourselves. So if we're gossiping about somebody or saying something negative about somebody, for law of attraction, we're saying it about ourselves. And that means law of attraction, and I'm going to sort of say this affectionately, thinks that we want it, I mean, is just responding to everything, is just photocopying everything that we think and believe. And so, we have to be very mindful. And isn't it beautiful? Because if you're kind, if you're caring, if you're positive, if you do your best to feel as good as you can and be as happy as you can, your life will be amazing, absolutely amazing in every single area. So it's just those times when we fall off the wagon, so to speak, and we start to think negatively. And it's the same for all of us. We negative thoughts appear, but it's just whether you're going to energize those thoughts or not, whether you're going to believe them, whether you're going to buy into it, and believe it. That's what it comes down to. Because if a negative thought appears, oh, you're a stupid fool, you just don't even care, don't even energize that at all, and it won't manifest. So it's a matter of becoming aware, first of all, becoming aware of what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And in the beginning, it can be challenging for people to be aware of what they're thinking, because I think, if I recall, we have something like, 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So almost impossible to monitor all of those. But our thoughts, if we're thinking of what we want positively, of what we want, then we're going to feel good. And so if we're feeling good, then what we're manifesting is good. It's going to be good. And if we're not feeling very good, then what we're manifesting isn't going to be that good, because that's the frequency that we're on. So it's a matter of really becoming aware of what we're feeling. And it's so easy to shift our feelings. It's not challenging. It's the same for all of us. Put on a piece of music that you absolutely love, that you can't stay still to, that just sweeps you away, or, cuddle your dog or your pet, or, do something, or take a walk and take deep breaths and hug a tree, or, do anything, go and eat a donut. I mean, do something to feel good, because when you flip yourself and you change yourself from not feeling so good to feeling better, then everything ahead of your day is going to be really great. And then the other thing that I would say is, if you're not feeling very good, that's okay. Also,
Right.
that's okay. Because if you can be like, well, that's okay, I'm not feeling very good, that's fine, I'm going to feel better soon. All of that helps to release resistance when you say that. That's okay, I'm going to feel better in an hour, I'm going to feel better in a minute. I don't mind, it's understandable that I don't feel so good right now, and didn't get much sleep last night, da, da, da. So just to not resist, make sure that we don't resist, because if we're like, oh, I don't feel good, oh, no, and we're resisting it, we make it worse.
Yeah. This is such powerful stuff, Rhonda. And for me, I've come on quite a journey myself, because I came from a real science background. I was the science geek, the kid at the science fair, and I went to MIT. I got this engineering degree. And so all of this, feelings stuff, I wasn't really exposed to. And maybe in the last 10 years of London Real and having all sorts of incredible people come on my show and having my life change, I started to get in tune with energy and good energy people and positive thoughts and all of that. And I noticed my life changing. And I'm an engineer, so I do recognize patterns. And I said, wait a second, something's changing here. And it could be correlated to the way I'm feeling, thinking, contributing, etc. And so I'm much more attuned to this now. And in the last 4 months, I've been doing these kind of walking meditations in the morning and really channeling things and seeing things and making my future happen kind of now. And it's amazing that we're having this conversation now, because even a year ago, I don't know if I would have been as ready to talk to you about this, because, I mean, Rhonda, I'm seeing this stuff happen in my life the more I do it. And so I can't wait to jump in. And I know people listening are going to want us to get into detail, which I want to do, because you've got great thoughts when it comes to wealth and love and health and things we can think about or not think about, and even some of the stories that you tell about you. And I think that would be really helpful if we can get into some of that stuff. Before we do, I was wondering if you could explain to people that might not really understand, like, how big The Secret was. Because back in 2006, YouTube wasn't around then. The internet was in its infancy, really. And yet still you went around the globe with this thing. And the numbers I just read off, I mean, Rhonda, I have a lot of New York Times bestselling authors on my show, but very few of them were on the list for over 200 weeks. I mean, like, this phenomenon I just described, it was so big. And again, this is pre-social media. So I was wondering if you could explain to people that either aren't familiar with it, kind of how big it was, that whole phenomenon, how your life changed tremendously in 2006 when all this happened.
Wow. My life just did a 360 completely in every single area. It just completely changed. And The Secret was just so enormous. It was like a phenomenon, really, across the planet. And people would ask us, which PR company did you use for The Secret, and or what advertising campaign did you do, and we didn't have a lot of money, and so we made in-house, as I had a production company, we made one trailer and we put that out on the internet, and that was all that we did. That was it. And we also released the Secret movie on the internet. And it was the first movie to appear on the internet. And our CEO at the time worked on the rewind and the back and the forward and the pause and all of that. So, but it was just so big, hundreds of millions of people. There wasn't a country in the world that it didn't touch. It was number one in so many countries. Yes, it was on the New York Times bestseller. It was the number one bestseller of all books. And you would just see people everywhere with that book. And it's all that everybody was talking about. I mean, it was viral beyond viral. It was massive. And what was so fantastic about it is that a person would buy the book or see the movie and they would immediately begin to put the practices into place in their life, like thinking more positively, being grateful, visualizing, and bingo, immediately everything began to change. So they then became the most incredible ambassador of The Secret. So they're telling their family, their brothers, their sisters, their friends, and what's more, for so many people, buying books for them. Like people that I would meet, they would say, I've bought 40 books and given them away. And they were so excited, just as excited as I was when I discovered it, and could not wait to share it with the world, just couldn't wait. Like I can remember walking down the street and seeing people stressed, and internally I would be saying to myself, don't worry, the secret's coming. The secret's coming. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. So it was absolutely enormous. And for us, when I discovered it, I didn't tell anybody what I had found. I researched it for 4 months just on my own, going back through history. And then I shared it with my team, and I said to my team, we're going to make something that will really rock the world, bring joy to the world. And at that time, I mean, I was $2 million in debt with my company. I had no foreseeable way of doing this, really. I had a production company, so I knew I could make a documentary or a film, but I just didn't have the money. But you know what? It was extraordinary, because while making The Secret, we were living The Secret and learning The Secret. And so and money was a huge thing. And so I would be visualizing money coming. And I did that the whole time, because in the end it was $3.5 million and I was $2 million in debt. And honestly, Brian, pretty well I can't tell you where that money came from. It just appeared whenever I needed it. When I needed to pay staff, money would just come into the account on that day, and it was a ride. And so I was, you know what? I was an Australian producer, unknown in the world, had discovered something that I just still consider to be the greatest news that anybody can ever receive in their life, and wanting to share it with the world. And so it was, and look what happened. So, but did we use The Secret for the outcome of The Secret? You bet we did. You bet we did. I visualized, I would walk past bookstores and I would see The Secret book in the front window of the bookstores as a number one bestseller. And I didn't even know there would be a book, but I would just see it, and I would just see people's lives changing, letters coming in. I saw all of that. I mean, we used to have what we would call intention meetings at 11 o'clock every morning, where the whole Secret team would come together and we would intend what we wanted, the outcome. Joy to millions was our mantra. And so we did all of that. And so when people say, who was your PR company? I say it was the universe, because the universe touched so many people who then, like, it spread from one person to another to another. It just couldn't be better, couldn't be more incredible.
And like, so take me back to 2004, because I think it was your daughter had given you a copy of a book called The Science of Getting Rich. And did that plant a seed, or was that one of the many things that kind of got you to develop this concept of The Secret?
That book was more than a seed. That book was like lit a fire in me. It took me I read it at a really tough time in my life. I was in despair. It took me 45 minutes to read it, and my whole life changed in that 45 minutes. I just knew so much from reading that book. And now when I go back and read it, I like the things that I knew after reading the book aren't really in the book. I seemed to open a door to understand a lot more. I knew life was not at all the way that we thought it is, and that we did have an incredible ability to create our life. And so Wallace Wattles and that book, and we have that book for free on our website. It's 1910, I think, that book. That book was the beginning. And so what I did was I read every single book of Wallace Wattles, and I looked for Wallace Wattles' mentor. And when I found his mentor, I then read every book of that mentor, looked for that person's mentor, and that's how I went back in history.
Wow. Must have felt
and
like...
I went actually right back to the Emerald Tablets.
To what? To which tablets?
The Emerald Tablet.
Really?
The Emerald Tablet. Yeah.
I don't know that. What is that?
Yeah. The Emerald Tablet was a tablet. Now I can remember the Egyptian name. The Emerald Tablet was a stone that was engraved. Wisdom and knowledge was engraved on it, and it was kind of hidden, buried in the sand in Egypt, and it's supposed to be about 5,000 BC, something like that. And so on the Emerald Tablet, it has, for example, as above, so below, and as within, so without. As within, so without, 5,000 BC. So amazing, right?
Rhonda, do you ever wonder, like, why there wasn't a version of The Secret out there, and why it took a woman in Australia who was $2 million in debt with her television production company to find this thing and create it? I mean, do you ever think why that is? Because when I grew up in school, I was taught pretty much the opposite of everything in The Secret. You had to work hard to get something. You had to, step on toes to get ahead. I lived the American dream, and that wasn't The Secret. Do you ever wonder why that idea was either pushed out or never embraced?
I do. I've thought about it a lot, and how was it that I got to do this? Because there were, like, going back through history, that the wisdom and the knowledge was there. In spiritual traditions, in religions, it was there.
Yeah.
I think in the Holy Scriptures is, now I have to remember to say it correctly, he who asks and believeth will receive. Right? I mean, there's the creative process of The Secret. Ask, believe, receive.
Right.
And so it was there in all the spiritual traditions and religions, going all back right through time, and from all different people. But somehow or another, it just hadn't reached the masses of people. And the one thing for me that when I discovered it, I wanted this for the world. I wanted this for everybody. And I had not been on a spiritual journey prior to this, but I knew that spiritually, anybody on a spiritual journey was well and truly taken care of by all the wonderful teachers out there. But I wanted our work to touch everybody who wasn't spiritual. I wanted it to reach all the people that are hurting or suffering. And so that was our intention. Our intention was that The Secret was for everybody.
Yeah. And it was probably at a time where, people were maybe running away from religion or not as engaging with religion as maybe they would in the past. And so in some ways it was maybe a perfect thing that didn't have, I guess, sometimes the baggage that religion brings with it. You could give them like maybe this kind of fresh, clean version that would still have a lot of these tenets that are in there, but maybe bring it in a fresh way to where it doesn't, like I said, have that baggage, and maybe people could embrace it. And I guess that's what you did.
I hope so.
And
I mean, you put that beautifully.
For people that don't know, Rhonda, I mean, it wasn't exactly like you had lived a life of The Secret before. I mean, you struggled with negative beliefs about money and all these things. So you really were learning in the lab while you were developing the movie. Can you speak a little bit about your upbringing and how unsecret it was, or what it was like?
Yeah. I'm humble. My beginnings were very humble. My parents didn't have much money. I mean, I was very blessed in that I had a very safe, secure family life. My parents were madly in love with each other. I'm one of 5 girls. I'm the oldest of 5 girls. And so we did not have any money, but we weren't aware that we didn't have money. And so it was very humble life and public schools and all of that. I did have an experience when I was 12, what I would call a kind of divine experience that, because I was asking, is there a God? Like I really wanted to know. And I had this experience where I was left in no doubt that there was a God. And so that happened at 12. But then, I mean, I just went on with my life. I thought all of the things that everybody thinks, that to have money, you have to work hard and struggle, or you're going to be a bad person, or you're going to hurt other people. And that, born on the wrong side of the tracks. Well, this is just my luck. I wasn't born into a wealthy family, so I have to accept, the limitations of the family that I was born into, or the education that I had, or the place that I was born. And that good things can happen to, bad things can happen to good people. You can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. All of those things, all of those fearful thoughts, I had all of them. And so, no, I didn't have a spiritual life. And, I would look back and think, how did I ever survive? Because I can remember talking to girlfriends about, gossiping things, and like we would just talk the whole night about, and I'd be like, how did I ever survive that, being so negative? Like we get on a negative tangent, and it's so amazing that I should have noticed. Why didn't I notice that when I was talking about negative things, which are things I don't want, that my feelings would plummet? I mean, you just can't talk about negative things without your feelings really plummeting and feeling really bad, which is just our perfect warning system to say, stop what you're doing, But not at all a spiritual life. I think one of the things for me that my mother used to say about me is that I was very giving. That's kind of the only sort of spiritual quality that I felt that I had. Always wanted to be a good person, wanted other people's approval, all of the things that we all suffer from. And it was just on that night of the 9th of September 2004 at 9:30 p.m. by 10:15, my whole life had changed.
And is it true that you had tears dripping from your eyes onto the page of the book? Okay.
I did. I can so clearly remember, because I was in despair that night. 2004 was a really rough year for me, and my father had died really suddenly young, and in the March, and my parents just had the greatest love affair I've ever seen. And so my mother was completely grief-stricken. I was, no coincidence, making 6 films on unsolved murders. So a really tough subject. And so I just had the worst year imaginable. Everything that went wrong, could go wrong, went wrong. And so by the 9th of September, my health was terrible. My relationships were in tatters because I hadn't seen anybody. I was sleeping on edit room floors and trying to get these 6 movies together. And I had my accountant call on that night of the 9th of September and said to me, my director had run $2 million over budget and that I was going to lose everything in the next 30 days. And I hung up. It was so amazing, Brian. I have replayed this night over and over. I hung up the phone and it was a hard line then, as I hung the phone, it rang again. And I said, what is it, Martin, who was my accountant? But it wasn't Martin, it was my mother. I didn't even recognize her. She was sobbing and my mother, she'd always be strong in front of us and never let us see, that she was suffering. And she just said she couldn't go on. It was the September, my father had died in the March and I was a long way away from her. So I talked to her for quite a while. I said to her, I'll be there in the morning. And I made sure that she was fine. And I hung up from her. And you know what? I had been Miss Fix-It all of my life. Solve all the problems. Whatever problems came along, I would fix it. Put out the spot fires. These 2 I could not do. It was overwhelming. And so I just collapsed in despair and sobbing. And my daughter, who was in her 20s, so nonchalantly kind of walked out, and I was broken in pieces. And she said, "Oh, what's wrong?" And I didn't want to go into it. I just said, "Oh, some things have gone wrong." And she walked away, and I thought, figures, And then she came back with this photocopied bulldog clip thing, and she said, "Oh, here, read this, it'll help." And I mean, look, it was my whole world was falling in. Why would I read this thing that she gave me? But I did. I sat down and the tears were pouring, and I can just so remember the tears hitting the ink and the ink running as I was reading it. And but that was the science of getting rich. And I just knew everything from that book.
Wow.
I knew that there was no death. I just knew so much. And it was one of the most incredible moments of my life that changed my life completely. And so blessed, Brian. I don't know why, but just blessed.
And when you read that book back, you said that you noticed that there's things that you learned that night, there's things you channeled into that night that aren't in the text of the book. So
that's right.
Other things were just coming into
somehow or another.
Right.
Sorry.
Other things were coming into your brain, and you were just getting all this creative energy from who knows where, but it wasn't necessarily the words on that page.
No, it wasn't. It was like the in between the lines.
Yeah.
Like in between the words, I was getting this massive kind of download. And I've thought back to that night, and what was it, I was in despair, but what was it that allowed that to happen? And the best word that I can come up with was surrender, because I had no idea how to fix these 2 problems that were overwhelming. And so I just surrendered. And in that moment of surrender, everything just came. Yeah, just so beautiful.
Right. Now we got everybody on the edge of their seat, Rhonda. So,
yeah.
So now we need to tell them what did you learn, and what are the tenets of The Secret?
I learned that we are the creators of our own life, and that what we think will shape our life. What we think and what we believe to be true about ourselves will shape our life, will be our life inevitably. And that if we would, so for example, probably the thing that hit me the most was I really struggled with money, right? So something that was common for me to say was, I'm broke. I can't afford that. Well, if you say that, that's the way your life's going to be. Like everything you say, you're setting your life in that particular path. You're laying out your future. You're paving your life. And so I would say that all the time. Well, guess what? That's what I would experience. And so the easiest, the kind of the simplest way for me to explain law of attraction is to say that whatever we think and believe is photocopied exactly and appears exactly as our life. And so I understood that we had incredible power and that we could think what we wanted, like money, money is coming to me. Money comes easily to me. Money loves me, instead of I'm broke and I can't afford it and all of those things. So where we've got everything wrong is we are reacting to life, and what we need to do is create life. And so in creating life, we say the way we want it before it's appearing. We say how we want it now, and then it will appear. And we say it as though we have it, because for any law, there's no time. There's absolutely no time. So for law of attraction, there's no time whatsoever. So that's why we have to speak as though we have it. But that's why the same as I think it's in Matthew, where whoever asketh and believeth will receive it. So you have to believe that you've received already. You have to believe you've received already.
Yeah. I'm going to read off some of the money affirmations that you say every day. I love these, by the way, Rhonda. I was reading them today. I actually pasted them into my affirmations already. So tomorrow I'll be saying this. So this is some of the things you say every day, and I highly recommend everyone write these down or listen to them. So these are some of them. First of all, you say, I am rich. I am a money magnet. I am attracting more and more money every day. I am becoming richer by the second. I'm getting excited saying this. I love money and money loves me. I am grateful for everything I have. Money is my friend. Money comes to me effortlessly and easily. And you go on to say you really feel the words in these affirmations until you truly believe what you are saying. Can you comment on these?
Yes. So these are the affirmations that I said to turn what I would describe as a lack consciousness, which is just the way I was brought up. We can't afford it. Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work hard and struggle for money. That's the only way you're going to get money. So I had all of those world beliefs. And so to change all of that and move to where money could just come in unexpected ways and in abundance, I needed to change from lack consciousness to wealth consciousness. And the way to do that was affirmations. I did many things, but I did affirmations and do affirmations every day. And if, for example, something happens and let's say something breaks and it costs more money than I thought to replace it, straight away I ramp up my affirmations and I ramp up gratitude, for everything that I've received. And so, yes, it's a matter. It took me, I was making a secret, it took me 1 year to go from lack consciousness to wealth consciousness. And if I were doing it again, it would take not at all that. I think it would take like maybe 2-3 months tops. And that's because I know all the things that work now. Like I tried everything. And the reason I tried everything was because I wanted to see what worked really well and then I could share that with people. And so all of the things that I did, like, for example, one of the things, and people would know if they're struggling with money, that one of the hardest parts of all is when bills come in. And immediately, back then I would get the mail, these days it can be very different how you receive a bill, but I would go and get the mail. It would all be window-faced envelopes and it would be a whole bunch of bills, and straight away my feelings would plummet. Well, I knew that if I opened that mail while my feelings were like that, I was just going to draw more bills, bigger bills to me. So I needed to feel good about money. The affirmations help you feel good about money. And so to tackle the bills side of it, what I would do is I would listen to a piece of music or do whatever I needed to do to feel good. And I would make sure that I was feeling really, really, really good. And then I would open the mail, except I would pretend in my imagination that these were checks. Now, you see, for law of attraction, it doesn't know, it doesn't know nor care, and it makes no difference whether you're imagining something or if it's real, right? So I'm imagining that every one of these bills is a check. And so I would write down all of the amounts of money and add them all up. This is all the money that I received today. And I'd be like, woohoo, I received all of this. And then it got to a point where I didn't even feel it was enough money. So I would add a zero. I would add a zero to what I received. But that helped me enormously. And obviously then with the bills, I would just pay when I could. I would just pay when I could. Also, when I paid, I did this, which also made me feel really good. I imagined that I was donating this money, that I wasn't paying a bill, that I was of my own free will giving this money to the company because I think this company is fabulous. So, for example, like an electricity utilities, I would pretend that I am donating this money to them. And then I would think about what that money is going to do, that it's going to help pay the salaries of all of the people there. It's going to help educate their children, help put food on the table for all the employees. And I would imagine all of that. So I did all of those things. And all of those things make a huge difference, because then when you get to a place where you feel good about money, you just can't stop the flow of it.
Right. So it's so important because you go from that kind of traumatized state where every time the postman comes, you're freaking out. Every letter that comes through, you start to get all of this traumatized state. How can you ever attract money in that state, right? By any means. And so you just can't, right? No one's going to want to be around you, let alone do business with you, let alone pay you. So you're not doing yourself any favors by doing that. So what you did is you decided just to flip it completely on its head to where you're just now have all this excited energy. You're actually thinking about money. You're feeling wealthy. And then, I mean, even the most cynical person would have to agree with us that one person is just going to attract more opportunities than the other, plain and simple, right?
Absolutely. Like if somebody's positive and optimistic, we can just see that their life goes really well, and if we know somebody who's always down in the dumps and complaining and, criticizing and sort of negative, things don't go well for them. So then that's really easy to see. But just the mere fact of people can experiment for themselves. Next time you're talking about something that you don't want, or in some kind of argument that you've allowed yourself to get involved in, just check how you're feeling, because you will not be feeling good. And then...
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.